In the final weeks of his life, Michael Jackson tried desperately to tell the world something urgent, something he feared no one would ever understand until it was too late. He spoke about it quietly to the people closest to him, his family, his inner circle, even a few dancers during rehearsals. He repeated the same haunting sentence again and again, as if time was running out. But every time he tried to explain what he felt, what he feared, he was dismissed, misunderstood, or told he was imagining things. And then, the night before everything changed, Michael wrote down a message so personal, so frightening, so revealing, that even those who found it didn't understand what he was trying to say. A message the world ignored. But once you hear what he tried to warn us about, you will never look at his final days the same way again. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on all notifications so you never miss our emotional stories about Michael Jackson. The lights inside Michael Jackson's Holmby Hills estate glowed softly against the quiet Los Angeles night. It was almost 3 a.m., and while the world slept, Michael sat awake in his bedroom, staring at the notebook open on his lap. A single lamp illuminated his face, tired, pale, but thoughtful, as if the weight of something invisible rested on his shoulders. He had been unable to sleep for days. Every time he closed his eyes, something pulled him awake again, a sense of urgency he couldn't explain, a fear he couldn't name. The pressure to this at rehearsals had been intense. Yes, the expectations were crushing, but that wasn't what haunted him. There was something else, something he felt coming. He ran his fingers slowly along the edge of the notebook, the pages filled with lyrics, personal reflections, fragments of thoughts that only made sense to him. But tonight, the words wouldn't come, only the feeling, the warning. He leaned back in the bed, exhaling shakily. Downstairs, security guards made their rounds. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning and the ticking of the large golden clock on the wall, each second hitting Michael's ears like a distant countdown. He stood from the bed, walked toward the balcony, and opened the glass door. The cool night air brushed against his skin. He rested his hands on the railing, eyes lost in the darkness beyond the estate walls. From up here, the city looked peaceful, but inside him chaos stirred. His thoughts wandered to his children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, sleeping in their rooms without a worry in the world. He smiled softly at the thought of them. They grounded him. They made him feel human in a world that rarely treated him as such. Still, even they couldn't silence what he felt. He turned abruptly, went back inside, and grabbed a pen. His hand trembled slightly, but he forced himself to write. On a clean page, he scribbled a single sentence. "They're coming for me, and no one will listen." He stared at the words. The room suddenly felt colder. Michael shut the notebook quickly, as if the sentence itself frightened him. A gentle knock came at the door. "Michael," a voice whispered. "You still awake?" It was one of his closest security guards, Javon, someone Michael trusted. "Come in," Michael answered quietly. Javon stepped into the room, instantly noticing the exhaustion in Michael's eyes. "You haven't slept at all tonight, have you?" Michael looked at him for a long moment before answering. "I can't. Something doesn't feel right." Javon frowned. "Is it the rehearsals? The pressure?" Michael shook his head, pacing slowly. "No, it's not that. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like something is going to happen. Something big. And I've been trying to warn people, but..." He stopped, rubbing his forehead. "Nobody hears me." Javon approached carefully. "What are you trying to warn them about?" Michael hesitated. Not because he didn't know, but because he didn't know how to make someone else understand. "I just feel danger," he whispered. "I feel watched, pushed, controlled, like I'm losing parts of myself I can't get back." Javon stepped closer. "Michael, you're safe here. We're here." Michael looked at him with a sadness that made the guard's chest tighten. "No one is ever really safe," Michael said quietly. "Not when the world wants something from you." He walked back to the bed, picked up the closed notebook, and held it tightly. "Just promise me something," Michael said. "Anything," Javon replied. "If something ever happens to me..." Michael paused, his voice trembling. "Make sure someone reads what I've written." Javon nodded, but the unease in his stomach deepened, because the way Michael said it, it didn't sound like fear. It sounded like certainty. Morning sunlight seeped through the curtains of Michael's bedroom, but it did nothing to warm the heaviness settling inside him. When he finally stepped out, wearing dark sunglasses and a loose black jacket, the house was already buzzing with activity. Assistants moved quietly. Security staff coordinated schedules. A driver waited outside, engine running, ready to take him to rehearsals. Everything looked normal on the surface, but nothing felt normal. As Michael walked down the hallway, he kept glancing over his shoulder, a small habit he had developed in recent weeks. He couldn't shake the sensation that he was being watched, even inside his own home. It wasn't paranoia, not to him. It was instinct. The same instinct that had protected him through decades of fame, manipulation, and danger. Near the kitchen, his manager, Frank Dilio, stood waiting for him. His face was tense, eyes scanning papers in his hands. "Michael," Frank said, trying to mask his frustration with a smile. "We need to talk about the schedule." Michael paused. "What about it?" "You're behind," Frank said bluntly. "The investors are getting nervous. The production team says you missed 2 segments yesterday. Kenny Ortega is worried. Everyone is asking questions." Michael inhaled slowly. "I told you, I'm doing the best I can." Frank lowered the papers, looking at him more seriously now. "I know you are, but this isn't just any show. This is a show. 40, maybe $50 million on the line. The whole world is waiting for this is it." Michael looked away, jaw tightening. What the world wants and what my body can handle aren't always the same thing. Frank followed his gaze. "Are you feeling sick again?" Michael hesitated. Yes, he was feeling sick. Nauseous. Weak. Exhausted. Like something inside was draining him day by day. But he also felt something deeper. Something he couldn't explain without sounding insane. "I'll be fine," he said softly. "Let's just go." Frank nodded, though worry flickered behind his eyes. As they headed to the car, paparazzi already swarmed outside the gates. Their shouts pierced the morning air. "Michael, over here. Michael, are you canceling the tour? Michael, are you afraid of failing?" Flashes exploded like lightning. Michael winced, lowering his head. Javon wrapped an arm around him protectively. "Keep moving." Inside the car, Michael pressed a hand against his chest, feeling his heart race. He hated this part, the noise, the chaos, the cameras. He had grown up in it, lived with it, survived it, but lately it felt suffocating in a way it never had before. As the car pulled onto the main street, Frank spoke again. "You need to reassure people, Michael. Show them you're okay." Michael stared through the window at the passing city. "How can I reassure anyone," he whispered, "when I'm not even sure myself?" Frank was silent. Michael continued, voice trembling slightly. "I keep trying to tell people something is wrong. I keep trying to warn them, but they just think I'm tired, or stressed, or dramatic." Frank softened. "Michael, nobody thinks you're dramatic." Michael looked at him with sad, tired eyes. "Then why does no one listen?" The silence in the car grew heavier. A few minutes later, they arrived at the Staples Center for rehearsals. Dancers stretched in the hallway. Technicians set up lights. Crew members carried props. Everyone greeted Michael with excitement, smiling, waving, giving him energy he didn't feel inside. Kenny Ortega approached him warmly. "Michael, we're ready whenever you are." Michael smiled gently. "Thank you, Kenny." But before rehearsal began, Michael pulled Kenny aside. "I need you to hear me," he said quietly. Kenny's expression turned serious. "Of course." Michael swallowed hard. "Something doesn't feel right. I've tried to explain it to people, but..." Kenny placed a hand on his arm. "Michael, we're here for you. Tell me what's going on." Michael opened his mouth. He wanted to speak. He wanted to explain the sense of danger, the sleepless nights, the whispers of fear that followed him from room to room. He wanted to show Kenny the sentence he wrote in the notebook. He wanted anyone to take him seriously. But the words died before they reached his lips. Kenny waited. Michael lowered his eyes. "Nothing," he said softly. "Let's just start rehearsal." Kenny studied him, concerned. If something's wrong, you need to tell me. Michael forced a small smile. Maybe someday. He walked toward the stage, but with every step, the feeling grew stronger. Something was coming, and he was running out of time. The rehearsal room vibrated with energy, dancers warming up, music echoing through the speakers, lights casting long shadows across the polished stage floor. But even surrounded by movement, Michael Jackson felt alone. It wasn't loneliness born from isolation. It was a feeling of being unheard. He stood at the center of the stage, eyes closed, breathing slowly, trying to find a rhythm that usually carried him like a wave. But today his heartbeat didn't sync with the music. It thudded irregularly, heavy and anxious. Kenny watched him from a distance, silently assessing. Michael's movements were flawless, but his spirit seemed dimmer. Something was weighing him down, and Kenny knew it. "Let's run the bridge again," Michael said softly, raising a hand. The crew adjusted lights. Dancers took their marks. The music swelled. Michael began to move, effortlessly, beautifully, like the air itself followed his command. For a moment, the world melted into pure performance. But halfway through the sequence, Michael stumbled. His foot hesitated. His breath caught, and he stopped. The entire room froze. Kenny rushed forward. "Michael, you okay?" Michael backed away, hand on his chest. "Give me a second." He walked to the edge of the stage and sat down, head lowered, shoulders trembling slightly. Javon, who had stayed near the entrance, stepped closer. "I told you," Michael whispered to himself. "Something's wrong." Kenny crouched beside him. "Talk to me. What are you feeling?" Michael looked into Kenny's eyes, searching, desperate for someone to finally see what he saw, feel what he felt. "It's like a shadow," he said quietly. "Like something following me, watching me, waiting." Kenny frowned. Try and make sense of it. "You mean stress? Pressure?" Michael shook his head. "No, this is different." Javon approached. "Michael, do you want to go home? You don't look good." Michael pressed a hand to his forehead. "I dream about it. I see flashes, a room, a voice calling my name. I wake up terrified, and that feeling stays with me all day." Kenny exchanged a worried glance with Javon. Michael continued, voice trembling. "I try to warn people, but nobody listens. They think I'm tired. But this isn't tiredness. It's danger." Kenny slowly sat beside him. "Danger from what?" Michael hugged his arms around himself. "I don't know." That was the truth, and the terrifying part. After a long silence, Kenny placed a hand on his shoulder. "Michael, if anything is wrong, physically or emotionally, we need to address it. You don't have to face this alone." Michael stared down at his hands. "I've faced everything alone my whole life." Kenny's voice softened. "Not this time." Michael exhaled shakily. Gratitude and fear mixed inside him, but the moment was interrupted. Frank Dillio burst into the rehearsal space, eyes wide, phone in hand. "Michael, the investors just called. They're upset you're behind schedule. They want updates now." Kenny stood abruptly. "Frank, not now." Frank cut him off. "This is serious. We need him on stage. We need footage. We need progress. Every hour counts." Michael felt the pressure slam back onto his shoulders. "Give me a moment," he murmured. But Frank persisted, voice sharp. "Michael, we don't have moments. We have deadlines." Something inside Michael snapped. He stood slowly, too slowly, and stared at Frank with a rare look of anger burning behind his eyes. "I'm not a machine," Michael said quietly. Frank froze. "I warned you all. I told you something is wrong. And no one is listening." His voice cracked. The room went silent. Javon reached for him. Michael's breathing quickened. He pressed a hand to his temple, as if trying to stop the pounding inside his skull. "I need air," he whispered. He turned and walked toward the back hallway, the dimmer, quieter part of the arena. Kenny called after him, but Michael didn't stop. He pushed open a door and found himself in a narrow service corridor lit only by emergency bulbs. The humming of the air vents echoed around him. He leaned against the wall, heart pounding. His hands shook violently. The same sensation engulfed him, the shadow, the feeling, the warning he couldn't explain. He whispered, "What are you trying to tell me?" But the hallway answered only with silence. Then, a voice, very faint, very real. "Michael." Michael stiffened. He turned slowly. The hallway was empty. No one there. No footsteps. No movement. But the voice had been unmistakable, and it whispered his name again. "Michael." Michael felt the air leave his lungs, because he recognized that voice. It was someone who shouldn't have been there. Someone who wasn't alive anymore. The corridor felt colder now. Not the kind of cold that came from air conditioning vents or drafty hallways, but chill that seeped through Michael's skin and gripped his spine. He stood perfectly still, eyes fixed on the far end of the dim passageway, waiting, listening. "Michael?" The voice lingered in the air like a fading echo. Soft, familiar, impossible. He blinked, heart hammering. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "You're gone. You've been gone for years." But the voice didn't answer again. Javon's footsteps thundered down the hall a moment later. "Michael, Michael, where are you?" Michael stepped away from the wall, still trembling, still staring into the emptiness ahead. When Javon reached him, he immediately grabbed Michael's arm. "Hey, look at me. Are you okay? What happened?" Michael swallowed hard. His lips parted, but the truth sounded absurd even in his own mind. "I heard something," he said quietly. Javon frowned. "Heard what?" Michael hesitated, then forced the words out. "A voice." Javon's expression shifted, not dismissive, but worried. "Whose voice?" Michael stared past him, eyes distant. "My father's." Javon stiffened. "Joe Jackson." A symbol of pressure, discipline, rage, control, but also legacy, strength, and drive. A complicated shadow that followed Michael long after the man himself had died. But Joe Jackson wasn't alive anymore. Michael pressed a trembling hand to his chest. "I heard him say my name, like he was right here." Javon slowly guided him toward a nearby utility room with a bench. "Sit for a moment, okay? Breathe." Michael sat, shoulders slumped, breathing shallow and uneven. "I'm not crazy," he whispered. "I know what I heard." "I believe you," Javon said, because at that moment, whether he believed it or not didn't matter. "Just tell me what's going on inside you." Michael closed his eyes. "It's been happening for days," he said softly. "Voices, dreams, warnings. I feel like I'm walking towards something, and I don't know what it is. But it feels dark. It feels wrong." Javon looked at him carefully. "Have you told anyone else?" Michael laughed bitterly. "You mean the people who think every fear I have is an inconvenience to the schedule?" Javon didn't answer. Michael leaned forward, burying his face in his hands. "I tried to tell them, Javon. I tried. I told Frank. I told the doctors. I told Kenny. I even tried to tell my kids in the sweetest way I could. But every time I speak, they turn it into work talk, stress talk, comeback talk." He raised his head, eyes shining with emotion. "No one listens to the warning." Javon sighed deeply. "Michael, you need help. Real help. Medical help." "I know," Michael whispered. "But every time I ask for it, someone waves contracts in my face. They say I need to keep going, keep performing, keep moving." He looked down at his trembling hands. "That's why I'm scared. Because I don't think they want to help me. I think they want to push me until I break." Before Javon could respond, the door burst open. Frank Dillio and Kenny Ortega stood there, both breathless, both visibly alarmed. "Michael." Frank snapped. "What are you doing? You walked off in the middle of rehearsal." Kenny shot Frank a warning look before turning to Michael gently. "Michael, talk to us. What happened?" Michael stood slowly, eyes cold. "I heard my father's voice." Frank blinked. "Your what?" "My father," Michael repeated. "He called my name. Twice." Frank rubbed a hand over his forehead. "Michael, you're exhausted. You're stressed. You're—" Michael stepped closer, cutting him off. "Don't you dare tell me what I am." Frank stiffened. Michael's voice lowered, but the intensity sharpened. I know my mind. I know my senses. I know the difference between stress and a warning. Kenny approached carefully. Michael, what do you feel is happening? Michael leaned against the wall, speaking through a trembling breath. I feel like something is coming for me. Like there's a countdown only I can hear. Like I'm being pushed towards something I can't escape. The room fell silent. Frank finally spoke. We can get you a doctor. No, Michael said instantly. I don't trust who you'll bring. Kenny stepped forward. Then let me bring someone you trust. Someone from your team. Someone you choose. Michael hesitated. That small moment of hesitation gave Frank an opening. We don't have time for this, Frank snapped. We need him back on stage. Investors are all ready. Michael turned sharply. Stop talking about investors. His voice echoed through the utility room. Everyone froze. Michael stared at Frank with a broken, haunted expression. Why is everyone talking about everything except me? Why is nobody asking why I can't sleep? Why my heart is racing every day? Why I'm hearing voices? Why I feel like something terrible is about to happen? Javon stepped closer. Michael looked dizzy now. Pale. Weak. His knees buckled slightly. Javon caught him. Kenny placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. We're taking a break. That's final. But Frank wasn't finished. If word gets out he's hearing voices. Kenny grabbed Frank's arm tightly. If you say one more word, I'll pull him out of this entire show myself. Frank swallowed hard. Then Kenny turned back to Michael. Come with me. Let's go somewhere quiet. Michael nodded faintly. They guided him out of the utility room and toward a private dressing area backstage, far from cameras and crew. Michael sank into the couch, taking slow breaths. Kenny crouched in front of him again. Michael, what exactly did the voice say? Michael's eyes filled with fear, with confusion, with a certainty he wished he could deny. He said, Michael hesitated, swallowed hard, then finished. He said, they're not who you think they are. Kenny's expression changed instantly, a mix of shock and fear. Before he could respond, a knock sounded on the door, a loud, urgent knock. Michael? It's Dr. Murray. We need to talk. Michael froze. Everyone exchanged a look, because none of them had called Murray. The knock on the dressing room door echoed like a gunshot. 3 sharp taps. Urgent. Demanding. Michael's breath hitched. His eyes locked on the door, frozen, as if the very sound had turned his blood cold. Kenny glanced at Javon, and Javon instantly moved in front of Michael, protective instincts taking over. The knock came again, harder this time. Michael? It's Dr. Murray. Open the door. But no one had called him. No one had even mentioned him. And Murray never arrived without warning. Kenny whispered, Did you ask him come? Michael shook his head, barely audible. No. Javon stepped forward. Stay behind me. When he cracked the door open, Murray's face appeared immediately, tense, irritated, almost out of breath. What's going on? I was told Michael needed me. Javon narrowed his eyes. Told by who? Murray hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second, most people wouldn't have noticed, but Michael did. He watched that hesitation like a puzzle piece sliding into place. I got a message. Murray said, from the team. They said he walked off stage. Kenny stepped forward now. Nobody here called you. Who told you to come? Murray stiffened. Listen, all of you. If his health is declining, it's my responsibility to help him. Javon didn't move. Then who sent the message? Murray's jaw tightened. Let me inside. We can discuss this privately. Michael's voice rose from behind them, thin, scared, but firm. No. The room fell silent. Michael stood. Even though he trembled slightly, he forced his spine straight. His eyes didn't leave Murray. You weren't called, Michael said quietly. So why are you here? Murray looked caught, cornered. I'm trying to help you. You need rest. You need treatment. I know what I need, Michael whispered. But I don't know what you want. Murray's face changed. Just a flicker, but enough. Kenny stepped between them. I think it's best if you leave. Michael's taking a break. That's final. Murray exhaled sharply through his nose. Fine. I'll wait outside. He turned and walked away, but he didn't close the door fully. It stayed slightly ajar, as if he wanted to hear what happened next. Javon shut it. The room felt 10 degrees colder. Michael slowly sat again, hands clasped tightly together. Kenny approached him. Michael, what are you not telling us? Michael didn't answer at first. He stared at the floor, as if peeling away the layers of something he had buried for years. Finally, his voice cracked. I've been hearing my father's voice for days. Kenny and Javon exchanged an uneasy glance. Michael continued, breath trembling. He keeps saying the same thing. They're not who you think they are. Over and over. Last night, he said something else. Javon crouched beside him. What did he say? Michael hesitated. When he spoke, it wasn't like a memory. It wasn't in my head. It was like he was right behind me, in the room, calling my name. Kenny rested a hand on his shoulder. Michael, grief is complicated. Stress can. This isn't stress, Michael said sharply. This feels real. Too real. He looked up at both of them, eyes wide, terrified and pleading. I think he's trying to warn me. The room went silent again. Kenny sat down slowly. Warn you about what? Michael swallowed. The people around me. He looked toward the door, where Murray had stood moments earlier. People who say they're helping me, managing me, caring for me, but instead they're controlling me. Javon felt his chest tighten. Michael, do you think someone wants to hurt you? Michael hesitated, then nodded. I don't know who or why, but I can feel it. Every time I go on stage, my body feels weaker. Every time I go home, I can't sleep. Every time I take something, I feel worse, not better. Kenny leaned in. Are you saying the medication? Something's wrong with it, Michael whispered. I know my body. I've lived in hospitals my whole life. I know when something helps and when something changes you. Javon's voice lowered. Are you saying Murray? Michael closed his eyes, tears forming. I don't know. I don't want to believe that, but I can't ignore what I feel. He gripped the couch tightly. I think someone wants to push me until I collapse, literally, and the people who need me strongest, my kids, won't know the truth. Kenny sat back, stunned. Why would anyone want that? Michael took a shaky breath. Money, he whispered. Power. Contracts. Control. When someone's worth billions, people become dangerous. A long silence followed. Javon finally spoke. Michael, we're here, and we'll protect you. Whatever's going on, you won't face it alone. Michael looked at him gratefully, but that gratitude turned to panic when the lights flickered. Once, twice, then they cut out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Michael gasped. Javon? Kenny? He could hear their breaths, but nothing else. Then, a faint sound. Footsteps. Not inside the room. Above it. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Michael froze, because he had heard footsteps like that before. In his nightmares. The same nightmares where his father's voice whispered warnings, and where a shadow followed him from room to room. The footsteps stopped directly above him. Then a single word, faint but unmistakable, drifted through the vents. Run. Michael's heart stopped. This voice wasn't his father's. It was someone else. Someone he hadn't heard in years. Someone who should have been dead. For a long moment, no one moved. The dressing room remained in total darkness, the silence broken only by the slow, deliberate footsteps echoing to the vents above them. Michael's breath trembled as he clutched the armrest of the couch, eyes wide even though he could barely see. Every sense sharpened, every instinct screamed, because that voice, that chilling whisper telling him to run, wasn't a hallucination. It belonged to someone he had known, someone he had trusted, someone he had lost, someone whose death had changed him forever. He whispered the name before he could stop himself. Samir! Javon stiffened in the darkness. Michael? Who's Samir? Michael swallowed hard. Someone I knew when I was younger. Someone who protected me before he died. Before anyone could respond, the lights flickered violently and returned. Not fully, but enough to cast a pale, trembling glow across the room. Michael's face was ghostly white, his hands trembling uncontrollably. Kenny knelt in front of him. "Michael, look at me. What do you think is happening?" Michael stared into the air, as if the shadows still spoke. "I think Samir is trying to warn me, just like my father." Kenny exchanged a look with Javon, a look of fear and helplessness, but neither dismissed him. Not this time. Not after everything that had happened today. "Michael," Javon said carefully, "is there something you haven't told us? Something connected to the Samir?" Michael exhaled shakily, closing his eyes. "When I was a child, when things at home were hard, Samir was the only one who understood. He worked security near the studio. He protected me. He made me feel safe." A tear slipped down his cheek. "He died trying to protect someone else. And I never forgot him. I never stopped hearing the things he taught me." Kenny's voice softened. "And now you think he's warning you again?" Michael opened his eyes with a painful honesty. "I don't think. I feel it. I feel danger everywhere. In the pills, in the pressure, in the people telling me to rehearse harder, in the hands pushing me forward when my body is begging to stop." He pressed a hand to his forehead. "I feel like I'm being rushed toward the edge of something I can't come back from." Javon spoke firmly now. "Then we're pulling you out. Tonight. You won't go back on that stage unless you decide to." Michael looked at him, surprised, because no one had told him that in years. But before Hope could settle, the door swung open. Dr. Murray stood there again. This time he didn't knock. And this time he didn't hide the irritation in his eyes. "Michael, enough delays. You need treatment now. You're shaking. You're pale. This is getting out of control. Let's go to your room. I have what you need." Javon stood in front of Michael. "He's not going anywhere with you." Murray's voice sharpened. "You don't get to decide that." Kenny stepped forward. "Actually, we do. He's exhausted, and he's not taking anything tonight." Murray's expression darkened. "If he doesn't rest, tomorrow's rehearsal will be impossible." Michael rose slowly, not out of obedience, but strength. "No one cares about tomorrow's rehearsal more than I do," he said softly. "But I care about staying alive more." Murray stiffened, surprised by the pushback. Michael's voice grew stronger. "You're not giving me anything tonight, and I'm not going anywhere with you." Murray clenched his jaw. "You're making a mistake." Michael stared at him, truly stared, and something inside him hardened. "No," he said. "I'm finally listening to the warnings." Kenny and Javon flanked him, forming a protective barrier. Murray's face twitched with frustration, but this time he backed away. "I'll be downstairs," Murray muttered. "But remember, you asked for this." He closed the door too hard. Michael's legs nearly gave out, but Javon helped him sit again. Kenny crouched beside him. "Michael, we need to do something. We need a plan. You can't keep going like this." Michael nodded slowly. "I know." His breathing steadied, slowly, carefully, as if he were trying to anchor himself in reality again. "Tonight," he whispered, "I'm going to tell my kids that I love them, really tell them. And tomorrow, I want to meet with my own doctors, people I trust. I won't let anyone put anything in my body unless I understand it." Kenny smiled sadly. "That's good. That's a start." Michael wiped his eyes. "I don't know what the warning means. I don't know if it's something coming tomorrow or next week or next month." He looked up at both of them. "But I know I have to fight. I know I have to stay here for my kids. I know I can't ignore the voice telling me to run." Javon put a hand on his shoulder. "Then you're not running alone." Michael smiled faintly, a fragile, grateful smile. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel entirely alone. But just as the tension in the room began to ease, a phone buzzed. Kenny looked down at the screen. His face drained of color. "Michael," he whispered, "it's the promoters. They're demanding a meeting. Tonight. Mandatory. They say if you skip, there will be legal consequences." Michael closed his eyes, not in fear, but in heartbreak, because he knew what that meant. He knew what they were trying to do. No warnings, no voices, no shadows, just cold, crushing reality. They were tightening the leash. Michael opened his eyes again, and the fire inside them surprised even him. "Then we fight," he said, "because I refuse to be controlled anymore." He stood, weakened, shaken, but alive. He walked toward the door, toward the world waiting to break him. But before leaving, he glanced back at Kenny and Javon. "If anything happens to me, tell the world I try to warn them." The room fell silent, and as they followed him out, none of them noticed the security camera above the door, the red recording light blinking steadily, watching, listening, capturing everything. Michael stepped into the hallway, into the fight of his life, and the warnings, whether from shadows, memories, or fate itself, followed him like ghosts. If this story inspired you, remember, even legends face battles unknown to the world. Subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who loves Michael Jackson.